what are the advantages? I mean, I know that you're currently a college student. Africa is called the motherland. It's not just called the motherland just because it's the motherland. It's because that's really
the African diaspora has been spread a long time around the world, but we are focusing on the new generation of Africans that came to America.
Once you move from one environment to another, it's natural that you do change. Like when you're young, when you're starting to learn a language, it's easy for you to pick up.
Hi everybody, this is your host Abdullah Fofana on TamTam, the sound of Africa on ACR TV. We have an issue today, a topic we're going to discuss today, which is education within the diaspora. As we know, diaspora, the African diaspora has been spread a long time around the world, but we are focusing on the new generation of Africans that came to America. As we know, some has come with a degree, some has come without a degree. We also have some who have come without no formal education. So today, I'm going to introduce to you my co-host, which is Rogliatu Toure.
Hello.
We have a student, we'll have her perspective about education. She was born here, Jenabu Drame.
Hello everybody.
And we have also Ibrahim Drame, who is a regular guest, very insightful. We'll get his life experience. Ibrahim Drame.
Hello everybody.
A perfect example of those who come to America without any formal, we cannot say no education, but no formal education at all, which is ABC. But here he come and still make it to America. Ibrahim, can you tell us your life's experience?
First of all, I would like to thank you for having me here today to talk about this very important subject about educations, and I appreciate for that. And let me go straight to answer your questions. When I first come to America, just like you said, I did not have any formal educations. When I was back home, I did not went to any school. So I'm sure many of you can relate to that, how difficult it is for that person to come to the new country in a big civilizations as America, to start from zero and then going from that point to where am I today. First of all, when I first came to the United States, I was about 15 to 16 years old. I was about 16 years old. So I realized it is important for any persons, in order to advance in this country, you have to have an education. Especially in my case, a young person, I have a lot of years ahead of me. There's always going to be a job, there's always going to be opportunity, but there will be a limit of time of education, because once time start moving forward, and you might not have a time to go to school later on another time. So the first school that I went to is called Macomb Junior High School. I started that one with the 12th grade, and it was very difficult for me because the class that I was put in, it was difficult for me to go with the regular class level. So from that point somebody in that school have told me to there's a school called Morris High School. They're starting. They have a program called ESL class, which is English as a second language. So that's a school that I found my voice, that I found my level of education that I should study. So I spent about 3 years in that school. When I started, there was a lady over there. Who helped me a lot to starting from ABC, going from that, and then learn how to pronounce the words. And then learning vocabulary until I finished high school, which was 2004. Then when I finished high school in Morris High School, I went to Hostess College, which is about 1.5 years. That one I study, computer, science and, English literature.
Yeah.
And when I finished, Hostos Community College, then, I went to, Senegal and, get engaged. And, 2 years later, I couldn't afford my education because, my wife, had traveled, United States with me. And, I thank God that I went to school and then struggled to get that education because without it, I wouldn't be, sitting right here to share my story. So I am encouraging every young person, who come to America, regardless your ages, regardless, your situation or circumstances, it is important to, go to school because in order to get the job, to be successful any part of the society, you have to have the educations.
All right, thank you, Ibrahim, for sharing your life experience. And now we're going to Jenabu Drame, who was born here, grown up, but traveled sometime to Africa for a couple of months. Jenabu, being born here, education is granted, but you travel to Africa, you see a lot of kids roaming the street without going to school. But here, you have to go to school to a certain age. But not only that is mandatory to you, but you also join your Islamic or Arabic teaching that your father is very strong on that. So how did you manage to manage these two type of education?
Thank you for your question, and thank you for having me today. The way I managed these two, it wasn't very difficult for me because I've been doing it since I was 4 years old. About 4 or 5 years old, I started going to kindergarten, and at the same time, I started going to Arabic school, and in both languages. Like when you're young, when you're starting to learn a language, it's easy for you to pick up. So in in English and Arabic, I was learning like the alphabet at both times, and my dad, our household is very structured. So in the morning we'd wake up, we'd do Arabic, and then around 6 or 7 we'd get ready and go to English school. When we come back, we do our homework. Once we're done, we go back and study the Arabic. So you were doing both. It wasn't like you were just doing one and then sometimes doing the other. So from about the age of 4 or 5 until now, we were very used to having learned both in the household. And my dad was very strict on, learning your culture and learning your religion, but also having that formal English education, because he didn't have any kind of formal education. And then he came here, he didn't speak any English. It was very difficult for him. And we all know that when you come here and you don't speak English and you don't have any degrees or any formal education, it's very difficult for you to get a job. And he didn't want us to have to go through that. So going to English school was a must, and also learning about the religion and learning about the culture was also a must, because he didn't want us to forget about that also.
Okay, thank you very much, Jenabu, for your perspective. And I'm going to ask my co-host, Rogia, if you have any question to Jenabu about education and her experience.
Sure. So once again, thank you, Jenabu, for your input. It's very important that, our viewers hear about your perspective as someone who was born here. But in the end, we've noticed that a lot of young Africans, we have a lot of them who were born and raised here and still don't go to school, still don't get an education, right? And so I would like to ask you, what do you have to say about that? As someone who was born here and still forced to go to school, to Arabic school, and of course to the American school, what do you have to say about those who come and refuse to attend any school at all?
Well, to answer your question, I feel like personally, knowing that what your parents went through, migrating from Africa and you being first generation American, African American, born in this country, that should be even more of a motivation for you to want to go to school, knowing what your parents went through, and what would make you want to go through the same struggle. You already have free education. It's not like you have to pay for your education. Your parents, in their country, they had to pay for their education, which is probably why they didn't go. And they came here for you to have a better future. not for you to sit around and refuse to go to school and be like everyone else who's here who refuses to go to school and is living off the government. Having a formal education gives you an advantage, and it puts you, even if you don't get a job right away, you still have a different mindset than someone who's completely illiterate and someone who doesn't who hasn't had a formal education. And that should just motivate you more to go to school. You should want to be the next president. And it's like your parents came here and you were born here, and it's like, what do they have to show for it? Because their child is here doing absolutely nothing.
Thank you for that answer. It was a good answer, I must say. So my next question to you is going to be, what are the advantages? I mean, I know that you're currently a college student and that you're still going to Arabic school, right? So what are the advantages of attending both schools at the same time?
So for me, the advantages of going to Arabic school and then also going to English school was that you get to see the two different ways that both schools or both institutions teach. One is more strict and more culture-based and more religion-based, while the other one is just, they teach you the basic math, science, and you have, like, when you go to English school, you take your classes in order to take a test and then in order to move on to the next grade or next level. With Arabic school, it's different. You start off learning the alphabet, and then you learn the alphabet in order to learn how to read the Quran, and then you learn how to read hadith, and you learn the meaning, and this is all to learn and better understand your religion.
So also in school, when you go to school, to your high school, your middle school, your university, it's very diverse.
Yes.
And you have people from very different cultural backgrounds, very different religious backgrounds, whereas in the Arabic school, it's just Muslim kids there, right? Yeah, that's a very good answer, I guess. Thank you very much for being part of this show. So next we have a very important guest. He brings a very different set of skills to the table. His name is Siddiqui Donzo. Siddiqui did his bachelor's degree back home, and he's now attending Baruch College, the School of Business. He's a graduate student, and he's going to share his experiences with us today.
Hello, thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question now is, what after you get that first degree, right? Because you have already received your first bachelor's degree, and we would like to hear from you. We would like for you to tell us what it was like transitioning from your bachelor's degree, especially in a country in Africa, to starting your master's degree here at Baruch. How was that experience?
Wendy, thank you so much for having me over here today.
You're welcome.
Very nice meeting all of you guys. You know, I'm Siddiqui Donzo, went to college in Liberia, and I'm a bachelor in Liberia. And having the opportunity to come to the United States and try to attend Baruch College to attain my master's in finance, MS. So the struggle of getting in college in the United States, especially when you get your first degree from Africa, you know, it's not an easy task.
Sure.
You know, being in the United States at the time, I have to struggle a lot. During my journey to Baruch, and I applied. You know, after applying, and I was told to take the the GMA. So how can I take the GMA? I have to go to a GMA school in Manhattan, pay for it from my pocket because I wanted to achieve my higher education. After paying for it, and take my GMA. When I took my GMA, I did extremely well because it was mostly like about mathematics. And I'm a math student, so I did well. And after applying to the school, and I accepted my credits, and I graduated with a high mark from Liberia. My accumulated GPA was 3.5, which was really amazing. They really appreciate the effort I did. But having said that, you know, it's not easy to live in Africa just to come in the United States and go to school. You have to be that determined person, you have to be that charismatic person, you have to be that great person. And one of the disadvantages I do face in applying to my graduate school, you know, that was my first time going to school in the United States. So I kind of figure out how am I going to see this school over there? You know, I had some negative effect at the time. In my own psychological mind told me that you can't make it, you can't go to school in the United States. You're not going to make it. So I felt like, okay, I think I have to attend the GRE school and see how things go before even going for my master's program. So what I did was I went to Manhattan graduate school. I mean GRE school. When I went there, they said to register for the GRE, I have to pay $1,500. So at the time, I only have $1,750 in my account.
Okay, so let me just make it clear. So when you came, you wanted to take the exam, and the GRE is an exam that you take in order to go into grad school.
Right.
And they ask you to pay $1,500 in order to just register for that class alone.
For the class alone.
All
right.
Thank you.
For the class alone.
Okay.
So, I decided to start contemplating what to do because it's money, man. I need money.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So I needed to pay my rent to do other stuff. So I need to sacrifice in order to achieve higher education. So I went outside a little bit, think about it, said I have to go for this. And I gave them a debit card and they swapped. When they swapped, I was left with $250. So I kind of figured out, what is it? Exam free in the GRE? I would just go and take the GRE and pass. But I don't think I'm going to help because I had that scary feeling that I'm not going to make it in the school of the United States. So after paying that, and I went to the GRE school, I spent 3 months and everything went fine. It was an excellent experience. And I wanted to take my GRE and make an excellent grade.
All right, Siddiqui, thank you very much for that experience. I must say it's a very beautiful one, and thank you for not giving up at that point where you almost had nothing in your bank account. And so that's one opportunity that we have here as Africans after, I guess, getting our first degree, which is a bachelor's degree or even associate's degree, right? So the next step is to find a job.